get back. Thank you, Ms. Schwing. Just to try to get back to some normalcy after that storm come through. I hate that we couldn't meet in person, but due to the storm and some people not being able to travel, I think, and then Ware County, which is where we had originally planned to hold the meeting, I think there were some power issues there, and they just weren't sure about having. I knew that they weren't going to have school today. They had already canceled school prior to the storm coming through on Wednesday, but at that time they were still going to. The faculty was going to come in just a little delayed, and they were still going to allow us to come in, but then that didn't work out. So this is our next best option. Moving it to another day and maybe next week wasn't going to work. We are all in the region office trying to get ready for the region rally, and so to try and find another date probably just wouldn't have worked out. So we do it this way, and we will make do. First, I want to say to all of you who are these first year teachers, Ms. Schwing and Mr. Collins, Mr. Stone, and Mr. Claxton and myself, we want to be able to help you throughout the year. So anytime you have any kind of question about anything, contact us. We're going to go over a lot of things today, and it may or may not take as long today as it did on Monday with our Area 5. It's just a little different when you do it in person, but we'll do the best we can and go through that. I would like to, at this time, I'd like for everyone to introduce themselves, and with the exception of my staff there, all the first year teachers, if you would introduce yourself and tell us what school you are at. And we'd like to see your face if possible. I know nobody really likes to be on camera, but if you'd be willing to do that, sure would appreciate it. We'll just start wherever.
I'm Kara Whitley. I'm at Coffee Middle School.
I'm Jacqueline Elder. I'm at Arthur Williams Middle School.
I'm Kelly Rauch. I'm at Wayne County High School. I'm Taylor Arnett. I'm at Martha Puckett Middle School.
I'm Darian Ball. I'm in Coffee County at George Washington Carver.
I am Kelsey Marchant. I'm the young farmer teacher at Abilene County High School.
I'm Jessica Garrison. I'm at Long County High School.
I'm Alexis Clark. I am at Long County Middle School.
All right, I think that's all of us that are on here today. So welcome to the South Region. I said it at summer conference, but you guys have joined the South Region team. You were selected in our draft to join us here, and I'm glad to have all of you here. And I really want you to have a great year. I know that two of you on here have really got a lot of work cut out with you. Those ladies in Wayne County starting a brand new program at the middle school. So you may have a lot of questions. Now, two things, remember, contact your region staff, but also you've got great resources there in Wayne County that can help you out. I know, Ms. Kelly, you're brand new there, but you're kind of coming into an established program, and you just kind of pick up the pieces that are there and move on. But the ladies next to you there, they got to build the pieces as they go. But I have no doubt that you guys will be able to do that, and I'm glad that you're part of us. We were going to be joined by someone from GVATA or PRC. I don't know that they are on here today. Maybe they didn't get the link, but they may join us for the 4 o'clock meeting. But I'll tell you, if you haven't paid your PRC dues, let me encourage you to do that. Those of you that have a T4 certificate and 0 years of experience, your extended day and extended year monies on top of your base salary equal about $12,000. And so that is money that we get from the state legislators in a grant every year, and that's not guaranteed money. So that PRC, that $150 PRC, helps to pay someone that can lobby for us on our behalf when they are in session. You don't have time to go to Atlanta every other day and speak to legislators. As a DOE employee, they don't allow us to go across the road, so to speak, in Atlanta unless we have an escort. Someone has to take us over there. So we have a professional firm that lobbies for us on our behalf, and with the exception of 2008 when everybody saw a cut, pretty much what we ask for is what we get. And so again, this year, every program that we asked money for was fully funded to that extent that we asked for. So let me encourage you to do that and pay your PRC dues. If you have any questions about GVATA and how they can help and assist, don't hesitate to contact them. Your representatives on the Area 6 side are Alex Chisholm in Wayne County and Audrey Pickren in Charlton County, and they can answer your questions about GVATA and PRC. I'm going to move into and ask Mr. Collins to talk to you about your program of work and meeting your standards.
All right, guys, can you hear me? All right, very good. What I'd like to talk to y'all about today is going to be your program of work and your extended day, extended year money, and how that is looked at, what the program of work is. As far as I remember, I was a student in the early and mid 1990s, and there was no ag teacher standards. And what happened was our program went under a big audit. And with that, there was no tool or no measure of accountability that teachers had. And what come of that is the creation of these standards that you see today. It's in our program of work. These were generated by ag teachers back in the mid to late 1990s, and these were implemented. And today we kind of use this as an instrument, as a tool for evaluation. And if anybody has any questions, please stop me or raise your hand or get yourself off of mute and unclick. And so, because I would like to answer some questions, because of course, by the end of the day, you're going to be on 2 Zoom calls and nobody's going to have any questions. But always the day after, we get a ton of questions. But the question that you ask is probably going to be the same question that somebody else does. Realize that these standards, these are the minimum. Does every ag teacher meet the minimum standards? No. Should we all strive for it? Yes. These standards are black and white. When I was in the classroom, did I make standard every year? No. My wife, she decided to have a baby one time, and I missed summer conference. So that year I didn't make standard. And guess what? Even though I like to say yes on everything I did, I didn't make standard that year, and I got over it. And these standards are black and white. And with that, there are several different programs of work and several different groups of standards. Young farmer teachers have them, middle school teachers, high school teachers, and even state staff. what I kind of put together and got Mr. Beecham to share a link with y'all so you can kind of see it. This is a high school teacher's program of work. And I'm sorry, Miss Beasley, Marchant, about your young farmer program of work and the girls with middle school programs. I kind of shot in the middle, and this is where I ended up. So what I would like to talk about is mostly going to be some of those stumbling blocks that I see on teachers' program of work. If you look at the first upper left-hand corner where it says teacher meets standards, yes. System meets standards, yes. That is what it is supposed to say. The only way that you can see that is if you go to print PDF, and it will come up and you can actually see that. Those two things on the left-hand side need to say yes, yes. If they don't say yes, yes, something is automatically wrong. And usually what it is you did not click a button that you were supposed to click. And that's the first stumbling block right there, because all these have to be done before September 1. And I don't know, looking on my telephone, I think September 1 is tomorrow, so we need to make sure we get this took care of. After you get evaluated, coming up in April, what you'll need to do is you'll need to create your program of work for the 2023-2024 school year, the same way that you created one this year. And I would do it immediately after I was evaluated, or as soon as it is available. If not, you'll be like a lot of veteran teachers that have 20, 30 years experience and forget about it until you get a phone call from one of us saying, hey, just go ahead and click that button and start your program of work. Because believe it or not, it does happen. All right, so let's look at some of these stumbling blocks. I got some asterisks or stars beside it. If you look at number 8A and B, you need to make sure that you put down the proposed or tentative dates of your advisory council members. And 8B, please put their names and also their occupations. If you look at that example on 8B, you'll see it's got a name and a pretty diverse group of employees. That means when I look at it, wow, this program really has a good advisory committee, and they'll have a good pulse of the community because they're involved in all facets. If you look there, there's going to be ag mechanics, forestry, there's animal science, everything. Also agriculture, ag lending, and agronomy. One thing I would caution is not to have too many Board of Education employees on your advisory council, because a lot of times what they can do for you is go talk to your school, the school administration, the Board of Education on some things that you can't. They're not your professional representative because you don't pay them to lobby for you. They're your representative because they like your program and they're willing to go to bat and lobby for you. So does anybody have any questions about number 8? Okay, we're moving on to number 9. All right, if you look at number 9, monthly reports, 10th of the month. Go ahead and get it done. That's pretty black and white. Mr. Beecham's going to talk a little bit later about some of those things that we're going to look for, about making sure that you have 20 contacts, 20 hours, and 20 entries by the 10th of the month. And that's being a minimum. And also how to handle your extended day, extended year reporting over the summer. But just realize that go ahead and do whatever you have to do about having some good practices to make sure you have things turned in by the 10th of the month. Because yes, we do check them and you don't want to get on the naughty list. All right. Number 10, if you look at that, you need to make sure that you attend and register and sign up for a SDU PLU class and make sure that you attend it other than going to GVATA. You need to go ahead and make sure that your system has you registered in and as a CTERN participant. And whenever the springtime rolls around and a listing of classes that we offer, go ahead and register for those CTERN classes over the summer so you can have some extended learning. And you need to make sure that you have enough classes to go ahead and get ready for your certificate renewal that you're going to have to do in 5 years. So if not, you have to do it all at one time. A lot of the rest of them are kind of self-explanatory until we kind of tool on down. So we get to probably some of that yes boxes where we check one. All right, there we go, number 32. All right, folks, you have to click number 32. Then you have to pick 2. That's just the way it works. If you don't pick 32, it's going to say no yes on your deal. So what that means is submit chapter form 1. And then after that, you're going to have to look at the American FFA degree, National Chapter Form 2, FFA Week recognition, WLC application, State Star application, American Star application. Now, if you are a middle school, there's only a finite amount of those things that you can actually do. So if I were some of y'all, I would really look at that National FFA Week recognition and that WLC scholarship application. But just know that some of that may be limited to you folks that are in middle school. I'm not saying don't do National Chapter Application Form 2, but as a first-year teacher, you can start it, and I think you need to do it. But I would go ahead and start with the WLC Scholarship and National FFA Week recognition. And with that being said, your FFA career ended when you graduated high school. Now, you're the advisor. You're not an FFA member, but your officers and your members are. A lot of this stuff will rest on them, and your job is to kind of shine it up a little bit before you turn it in for them. But at the same time, I will go ahead and tell you, you need to get really good at lying to your kids. And what I mean by that is if the Albany Fair Scholarship is due October 1, tell them a lie. Tell them it's due September 1. And when they turn you in that application that is 1/8 of the way complete, and it's just a skeleton, then you can kind of go from there and kind of flesh it out, and you can shine that thing up good, and they can be competitive. So do whatever you got to do to trick the kids and make them successful. And then the next thing we need to click on is going to be like number 33. And the way these things work is kind of like 2 + 2 + 1. 2 leadership, 2 team, and then you get to pick one. Because you have to have a minimum of 5 total. And I'll go ahead and tell you, don't sell your little kids short and you go into it and say, hey, I got my 5 done. Guys, gals, y'all teach 130, 140 kids a day. And then you're only going to involve, let's see, 3, let's say 4 times 4, you're only going to allow 16 kids to represent your chapter out of 140. That's not doing your program and your kids and your community a service by limiting CD participation, just 16 kids. Okay, so be competitive in those 4 or 5, but offer whatever those kids want to do. Let them do. Also know this, if you have a junior and senior livestock judging team on the program of work, that only counts as 1 team, but it involves 8 kids. Just kind of be aware of that, and that'll get some folks in the crowd. Anybody got any questions on that? Click. Then we'll tool on down over to number 34. Oh, 34, get some folks to. What you got to do is you actually have to click yes on number 34. Then, after that, you'll fill in some numbers on where you're going to project those folks to go, like National Convention, the regional rally, and the awards banquet and stuff. Now, your first year, you may not win anything, but you may want to take your chapter president or chapter vice president or your rising officer team to kind of show them some things that they can use to kind of be successful. And I know registration and all that's over for the region rally, but the region rally is a good deal for y'all, because to me, I think teachers kind of use it as a trial. Number 1, go ahead and get the kids to pay FFA membership. Number 2, they got to do a permission form. Who does a good job of getting a permission form and getting it back? Next, they have to show up on time. They have to get on the bus. They have to not get in trouble on the way, at the event, and going home. They need to do a good job of representing your program. And they need a parent that's responsible enough to come pick them up at the end of the day. Folks, that's just like a contest. That has nothing to do with competing in a contest, but it has everything to do with being competitive at a contest. If those kids can't do those little bitty benchmarks when they go with you to the region rally, they probably won't make your CDE team successful just because they can't do those little bitty things. No, it probably wasn't a good idea for me to carry Griffin Simmons with me to land judging, even though he was really good, because I had to stop by the car dealership on the way to land judging practice to get his daddy to sign his permission slip for the next week, because he hadn't done it in 5 days. But that's neither here nor there. But folks, I know I'm forestry, and I know Mr. Stone is like mechanic, and then Miss Swing is the horticulture teacher, and Mr. Beecham is the region director, and Todd is animal science Todd. I was gonna say a Todd, but y'all laugh because that y'all I know what y'all think. But we were all decent classroom teachers, and we had some good experience being FFA advisors. And just because the moniker beside my name is forestry, I was an ag teacher, so none of us are pigeonholed. So if y'all ever got any questions about anything, please call and contact us. Does anybody have any questions about this program or work document?
I guess not, Mr. Collins.
I like.
You did a fantastic job going over that. I think everybody's got their program of work completed. And so now it's just a matter of making sure that, what you said yes on, that you follow through with that. Mr. Collins alluded to it, with those CDEs, you got to do 5. Don't say these are the 5 I'm going to do, because that one that you were really counting on, and that was going to be your last whichever, and then that kid or those kids or something backs out. So don't put yourself in that position.
That's right. You don't ever want to put your extended year funding in the hands of a teenager, because they might decide to go open Christmas presents to grandma or something.
That's right. That's right. The only reason we laugh at that is because we've lived through it. Mr. Collins, he said it. Mr. Stone and Ms. Schwing and Mr. Claxton and myself and we've taught ag for a long time, so we've seen a lot of different things, made a lot of mistakes along the way. So we don't mind answering questions. Mr. Collins, in his talk about the program work, mentioned the monthly reports. So let me talk about that for just a moment. Those are due the 10th of every month. So on September the 10th, your monthly reports for August are due. And this is what needs to be included in that. There needs to be an entry every day, every weekday of that month. So that will be 20 entries minimum is what needs to be there. That's your extended day activities when school is in session. There should be at least one contact each of those days. So therefore, there should be a minimum of 20 contacts. And you get paid an extra hour for every day. So there should be a minimum of 20 hours on every monthly report. Now, Ms. Marchant, yours is a little different with the young farmers because they want you to not only record your time in the classroom, but your time outside the classroom. And your time outside the classroom may reach longer than some of these in-school teachers. But if you have any questions as you go through your monthly report, just let us know. In the monthly report, it's going to ask you for contact names. If you are having a social for your whole FFA chapter, I don't expect you to write every student's name in there. You can just put chapter meeting or chapter social. If you are practicing with your ENR team or your tractor driver or whatever, where it's, I would say 8 or less students or maybe 10 or less students, then it would be a good idea to put those student names in there. One question that we got from the Area 5 meeting was, do you want first and last names, or does it need to say Adrian Jones, or can you just put A Jones? A Jones is fine. We're not going to contact Adrian and say, hey, we had your name on this list. Were you actually practicing with that team? It just adds a little validity to it when someone other than us looks at that. And if you put, you had 3 contacts and you don't put a name down there, sometimes perception is reality and people think that you just made something up and put it in there. So the more information you can put on those monthly reports, the better. There's supposed to be, and I hesitate saying this because it hadn't happened yet, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's supposed to be some changes to the monthly reports, and we've been asking for that. And the main change that is supposed to be there is it won't allow you to actually submit those reports until you have put something in every day of that month, every weekday of that month. But that hasn't happened yet. When it does, we'll certainly let you know. Weekends, there are a lot of teachers that put their weekends in, even if they weren't working. That is completely and totally up to you. If you want to put Saturday and it was just a weekend, that's fine. If you want to skip Saturday and Sunday and you just put those days in during the week that you were working. If you're not working one day, let's just, for instance, you had a doctor's appointment or you were out sick, make sure you put that in the monthly report as well. Even if you weren't there and didn't work, it needs to be included in your monthly reports. I haven't looked at those this month. I haven't looked at anybody's monthly reports recently. Does anybody have any questions about monthly reports, about what we're asking you to do or what you need to do?
Mr. Beecham.
Yep.
The day of Perry Fair, our kids are not in school. It's considered a teacher work day. does that go in as extended day or extended year?
Okay, if it is a day that you are required to be there, students are not, that is an extended day activity. If school is in session, that's an extended day activity. So you got 190 days of extended day. So that includes, you know, the days that your kids are in class, and it also includes your work days, pre and post planning and work days.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I get that question, or we get that question all the time as to what is an extended day and extended year day. So that's a great question. Any other questions about monthly reports?
I have a question. I'm going out on maternity leave in January, so it's a little ways away. But as far as maternity leave in January, how would I document that on my monthly reports?
Ms. Whitley, there is a place on there to mark personal leave or maternity leave or something. There is a place on the monthly report that says that. So just every day that you're out, just mark it as such.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. That's another question that I get a lot. So, yep. Any other questions? All right. Ms. Schwing, I'll ask you to unmute yourself and talk to us about SAEs, record keeping, all the things.
Okay. I need y'all to turn your videos on because I can't talk to a black screen. So ain't no judgment here. I got my hair in a ponytail and my child may walk around in his underwear. It is what it is. Like we owning it today. I am gonna share my screen. Wait, wrong share button. I'll do this in slideshow mode. Come on, thing. I may be asking too much of my internet by doing both of these at one time. We'll see what happens. Okay, everybody still with me? I see Kara shaking her head. All right. So, Mr. Beecham asked me to talk about SAE ideas and record keeping. And when I started thinking about all of the things that I wish somebody had told me as a first-year teacher, there were only a few things that really I wish I had known, but they're big things. So I'm going to kind of go through this list and talk about personal experiences. Please jump in with your questions because this is not valuable unless you are sharing with me what you need for your programs. So what do you need to know and what do you need to do? Every student in your program must have an SAE project, but your program, you as the advisor, you get to decide what constitutes an SAE program for you and for your chapter. Now, it's important that we remember that the A in SAE. So what is the A in SAE? Somebody just shouted out.
Agricultural.
Thank you, Kara. It means agricultural. The S is for supervised, which means you can't let them have a livestock project and you have never seen that livestock project. They go to shows without you, like you have no part of it. But it's not just livestock. All SAE projects, all types of SAE projects need to be supervised by you. And it's also an experience. So your challenge for your program, when you have a special needs student come into your program who they can't even read and write, but they need an SAE project, you get to determine what is a valuable experience for that student in your program. In my chapter in Tift County, I had the opportunity to work with ninth graders specifically, and then I had the opportunity to move up and work with 9th through 12th graders. I had a lot of students come in who were special needs, or they just didn't have the ability to do what some of the other students could do. And so we had to modify their SAE projects. And we did a lot of things, like chores. If they have chores at home that they can do and keep records on. I had a student who he liked to play video games, and he was at home a lot by himself. And so we found an agriculture related video game that he could play, and he kept records on that. You decide what works for you and your program. Now, with that being said, can these projects where students are doing chores, or maybe this student has a job and they're working somewhere, maybe they're working at the local grocery store, but they're not necessarily working in the meats department. They're not necessarily, or they're working as a mechanic or with a mechanic, maybe as a placement project, working on cars. Great project, something that they can learn from and keep records on. Does that mean that they can still complete an award application on those projects? So middle school record books or proficiencies are what I'm talking about here. The answer for that is no. Not all SAE projects are worthy of award applications. Middle school record books and proficiencies are where we get to highlight the best of the best in our chapter. Some years you got a lot of the best of the best. Some years you're scrapping at the bottom of the bucket trying to build one together. Especially as a first year teacher, a lot of your success will be determined based off of what the previous ag teacher did. And some of you are building brand new chapters, so you don't have anything to go off of. Good news is that middle school chapters, it's okay, because the requirements for a middle school record book are not like that of a proficiency. A proficiency project, a student has to have 2 calendar years of records, and they have to have been in FFA for 1 full year before they can complete a proficiency project. We don't have that for middle school record books. Something else that you need to remember is that proficiency applications and middle school record books are part of your program of work. You are required to have students who have at least one good SAE project that is worthy of an application, of an award application. So if it is part of your requirements, I would encourage you to begin with the end in mind. If you have 6th graders or 9th graders, and every one of you does, you have, except for, well, one of you only has 9th graders. Start with them. When you are building your programs and starting with SAE projects, you start their SAE project with the goal of one day they are going to turn in a middle school record book or a proficiency application. I would encourage you to build your evaluation of their SAE projects around the applications themselves. So, would anybody like to share what they are doing to give students a grade for SAE projects? And so let me pause there because I forgot to share this. If you have in the 3-ring model, one of them is SAE, and it kind of goes into the classroom. So your SAE projects in your classroom, and all of your students should have them, you need to give them a grade for that SAE. So I'd like for somebody to share with me what you are doing in your classes to give a grade. Or maybe if you haven't figured it out yet, what you did while you were student teaching to give a grade for SAE projects. And I'll wait until y'all are ready to share.
I know for me on the middle school aspect of things, I've given all of them basically a record book that we're going to work on throughout the semester in class. And I've given them checkpoints that I laid out from the beginning. So I sent home a parent letter and had their parents sign saying that they knew or that they acknowledged that what their child was going to be doing. And had their parents actually sign off on 3 different ideas that the kids came up with and researched. And I laid out the due dates from last week all the way through December of them presenting at the end and everything. And so it's 5 major grades, and the parents signed the letter saying that they knew what those due dates were and that they were all counted as test grades. And so it was a major part of their grade throughout the entire semester. So, and it was a record book that I think Anna Hartley shared with us from Hit the Ground Running, I believe is where I got it from. It was just like a basic Google Slides record book that I've put in Google Classroom for all of them to work on. That way they don't lose it. Yep. And like you mentioned with the special needs kids, Mr. Metz and I both actually teach about 10 to 12 self-contained students at our school. He has them 6th grade, I have them 8th grade. And they've actually started theirs on campus. Within their regular self-contained classroom, they're all doing something plant-based, and they're just making notes of what they're observing every day, and they're kind of working in groups of growing different types of plants and things like that. So kind of modified it a little bit, like you said, to fit their needs, but still the parapros that travel with them on a daily basis come, and she's helping them complete a modified record book.
Perfect. Yeah. That lots of big things you mentioned there, like having the record book that they are completing, having it through Google Classroom or something that will allow them to enter it somewhere, but then not lose it. That's big. It's also really big when you're building this continuation of a project from year to year. They're not going to remember where they saved their pictures because they're going to get a new phone every year. I don't know how these kids afford it. I got the same phone that I've had for 6 years, but these kids get a new one every year and they lose all their pictures every time. So having that Google Slides or some sort of electronic version of saving that will allow them to go back and get those pictures and those records from previous years. And you talked about tailoring those. School-based projects are really good in certain scenarios. You can even use school-based projects on award applications. Be careful, because remember, SAE projects should happen, especially for award applications, outside of the classroom. I'm not saying it can never happen in the classroom, but their work and their hours, it should be not just what they are doing in class together. Awesome. I would love to hear somebody else share what they're doing in their programs or in their classroom for SAE projects.
What I'm doing is it's very similar to what Kara said. So we're doing the check-ins. We're doing weekly check-ins, like 10 minutes every Friday, just to update the record book and make sure it's on track. And then at the end, we'll do a presentation, or either I'm gonna have them do an essay about it or a presentation, because I have different ranges of students. Some don't like to present, some like to write.
Okay. I like that you're differentiating. I had that problem a lot too with my students. Would get to the end and they wouldn't want to present for whatever reason. I did, and we talked about this in the previous meeting on Tuesday. You do not lower the bar for your students. Make sure that you keep the bar high and make them rise to the bar. When differentiation is needed and necessary, have options in place to be able to do that. But especially your good kids, your kids that you know that are qualified and they have the skills, make them do it. If they have to come after school or during lunch to present to you, that's one thing, but you're still making them do it. Or if they don't want to present and they want to just turn it in. There's a percentage of the grade that's deducted for not being able to present it, because our students need to be able to, they need to be able to talk to people. They need to be able to take information and orally present it. And sometimes to get started, that means reading it off of a slide. And if they have social anxiety or something that's preventing them from doing that, give them an option to do it in front of you, but don't lower the bar. Something else that you talked about was that Friday component. I love an SAE Friday. And that kind of leads into the next thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, was resources that you can use for your programs. So as a first year teacher, it's really important that you not try to reinvent the wheel. You don't have time to reinvent the wheel. There are already things created for you. National FFA has this program called SAE for All. It's fairly new. I think it came out in like 2019, because I remember using it before I left the classroom. And it was established by ag teachers. Lots of great resources. It is so cumbersome that I don't really have time to go through all of the details of it. But I would encourage you to just go to saeforall.org and look through the resources that they have. When you first get there, you can choose, all right, do I want to look at this information from the standpoint of a teacher or a student or a supporter, which would be like a parent. And you can include this resource in what you give to your students. Other teachers are also phenomenal resources. And it sounds like y'all have already been talking to other teachers about what they do in implementing those ideas. I would encourage you to continue to do that as you teach. We've always joked, when we used to have midwinter conference up at the FFA camp, and we would all sit on those benches that used to be outside of Mobley, and we'd throw rocks at these cans and just talk about the things that we were doing in our classrooms. That's where the best ideas come from. There are social media outlets that have ag teachers sharing ideas. So there's like two Facebook groups that I know. Ag Teacher Discussion Lab, I think, is one. And there's another one. If you just search for ag teachers, you should be able to find it. There's also some that are very specific to content. So there's a horticulture discussion group. Add those to your social media so it's coming through on your streaming when you're looking at stuff, and it gives great ideas even when you're not ready for it. I would encourage you to find a way to organize those ideas, because sometimes it can be information overload. Something else that we offer, I have 5 workshops scheduled this year for proficiencies. The best one for teachers is going to be during the summer, and it'll be in June. And you'll come and we'll go through every component of a proficiency from start to finish, placement projects and entrepreneurship projects. Another one that you might consider is Ag Explorer. It focuses more on careers, but especially if you've got students who they're having trouble figuring out exactly what it is that what they want to do for their SAE projects. This Ag Explorer has some really good videos of careers, and it can trigger ideas for students when they're trying to find a project. One problem I had every single year is I'd have these fantastic students who had resources out the wazoo, like their dad was a row crop farmer, but they didn't want to do their SAE project on the row crop farm because they were really familiar with it and they knew what went into it and they wanted to do something different. I would encourage you to show them these videos of other students, and it helps them see like, okay, it's normal and it's encouraged for me to do this as an SAE project. I think Kara mentioned it earlier, but having a SAE agreement form in the very beginning that you share with their parents, and have on that SAE agreement form where they list out their resources, like people that they know who have careers in agriculture, Do they live on, you know, a large acreage of land? Those sorts of things. It's good for you because then you can see, okay, I can help direct this student in this project. It's also good for you because you can develop your list of resources when you need things for your program. It sure is nice whenever, you know, you're doing floral design to know that little Susie's mama is a florist. Having those resources is really good. Ultimately, I want to encourage you that, man, this job it's the best one ever. There is nothing else like it. It is the most rewarding career. There are hard days, and this first year is going to suck. It's going to be really, really hard. I equate it to like the first year of marriage where nobody knew what they were doing at all. And we were fighting with each other because can't communicate and you don't know the expectations or the calendar or anything like that. But second year got a little bit better. Third year, even better. Man, that third and fourth year teaching ag, it's a sweet spot. But you got to stick it out long enough to find the sweet spot. So don't quit on teaching ag before it gets good. Make sure you reach out to the resources that are here for you. Like Mr. Collins said, I'll reiterate that again. All of us want to see you succeed in the classroom. So use us. We get paid to help you. Make sure that you aren't struggling with something by yourself when it could have been solved with something as easy as a phone call, text message, or email. I would love for someone to ask me a question about SAEs or anything in general before my part of this is done. So that way I know I didn't waste my time today.
I know I've talked a lot already, but I do have a question.
It's all right. Go ahead, girl.
So like I mentioned earlier, going on maternity leave in January, would you recommend me trying to leave that stuff with my sub for her to pass out or wait and start? Because the way it's going to fall, I'll be back like the beginning of February. Would the beginning of February be too late for middle school to start second semester, or should I just wait until I'm back?
I think that SAE planning stuff is excellent sub plans. And especially if you use that SAE for all, use those resources, use that Ag Explorer, those videos. So they are exploring SAE projects while you are gone. I think you can probably get 1 to 2 weeks of, depending on how long your classes are. Give them that SAE agreement form ahead of time too. Put the stuff on Google Classroom. Maternity plans, maternity leave lesson plans are going to vary depending on how good your sub is. So if I could go back and do my maternity leave over, I had my son in May and then came back in August. So kind of because I was out just a little bit at the beginning of the year. I would have recorded my lessons ahead of time, or at least the instructions, and then put them on Google Classroom so that they would have them. But that's a lot.
Well, I've got time now to try to get it done, especially if I'm entering into it now, I can record it as I'm doing it for this semester.
Yeah,
and just
that's
upload
right.
it to
Oh man, yeah. That is a great idea.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And some of these others may have other ideas that they would share with you too as to how to handle that. All right. Hey, Jessica, you doing good? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We're hanging in there.
All right. Did y'all have any damage in Long County?
Not a whole lot, just some power outages uptown.
Okay. You're good to go on plugs on Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am, I am. I'll be there.
Awesome. Good deal. Darian, you got the info about your plugs also that were ordered on your behalf?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. Good deal. I can't remember. Both of y'all were at Coffee Middle. I don't think Wayne got any. So, all right. Well, let me know if y'all need anything. Hey, I do want to plug this real quick. Miss Marchant, y'all, she just started. She already got a national finalist in proficiencies. So if you have questions about how to become a national finalist, she's your girl, because she knows what she's doing. Everybody and their mama's calling me while I'm talking to y'all right now. All right. That's all I got, Mr. Beecham.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Swing. And Ms. Martin, I will say a lot of the conversation that we're having today is geared a little more toward the in-school teacher, but the best programs have the young farmer teachers that work really, really closely with the in-school teacher. So I appreciate you being here. It would have been easy for you to say, well, that might not have anything to do with me, but you're an ag teacher first, and then that young farmer program is just an extension of what we got. And so you've got those kids in your program. So
Thank you.
yep, I appreciate you being here. All right.
Yes.
Mr. Stone is going to talk to us about how we register for these career development events and leadership development events.
All right. I guess I'm unmuted. I hope all of you are doing good. I'm glad to be here with all of you today. And we're going to spend some time talking about how to register for your CDEs. I also want to piggyback a little bit on what Ms. Swing had said about your SAE programs. Some of you will be doing state FFA degrees. And I know there's you got proficiency applications and you've got state FFA degree applications. And some of you may say, well, if he did a proficiency, I can move it over and do a state degree. That is still good philosophy. Do not waver from that. But I do want to share a little bit of time here talking to let you know that a state degree is a whole other animal that's different than the proficiency proficiency application. One, in being that the proficiency is dealing with your SAE programs as well as a state FFA degree, but a state FFA degree is a encompassment of not only that particular SAE. Say, for example, you have one in grain production, and this kid also had vegetables, which is also another proficiency avenue. But his proficiency might not have been good in vegetable production. It might have been better in grain, so we went the grain route. Well, when you do a state FFA degree, you want to encompass that grain and the vegetable into his or her application. Okay. Also, if he or she showed a steer or cow, you might not want to talk about so much of that in the proficiency, but in the state FFA degree, you will. Okay, because everything that the kid has done in the state FFA degree that he or she has done agricultural related needs to be in your state FFA degree applications. Okay. Now, I do realize that we are a long ways off from when state degrees and even proficiencies, but folks, time it will roll. Christmas will be here before you know it, and certainly the spring will be here before you know it. So we are here. You can always reach out to us if you have those questions. We're also going to do a better job of trying to post something on the Ag Ed website for you to look at and view when it comes to these state degree applications. Another thing that's a little bit different between the state and degree applications and your proficiencies is in the proficiency applications, it may not ask for anything personal expenditures related. But a state degree, it does. Okay, there's one little category on the basic setup page down at the bottom is a little box that has two little things: personal expenditures and educational expenditures. And that is nothing really related to an SAE, which, remember now, the proficiency is strictly focused on what he or she did in that particular enterprise of that category. But a state degree is a big encompassment. You can almost say like your state degree is a financial portfolio record of your student for the past 4 or 5 years. That 5 years being that if he wants to wait one more year after high school to do his state FFA, he or she does her state FFA degree. Okay, so bear in mind that you have to put figures in there. If not, it looks very suspicious that you have all this money, but you have not, that kid has not bought anything, gas, food, clothes, money for the pickup, gas for the pickup truck, or money for the pickup truck. So, just bear those things in mind when you're doing these applications, okay? And like I said, I just always remember that I had 2 students one time, and I kept watching the grain proficiencies would hardly ever have any entries in there, and I had some real good kids, and I had one. His name was Matt Paramore, and he had a buddy. His name, we called him Duck. Okay, his name was Dustin Wilson, but Dustin worked for Matt. And one of the things they did, and Matt was a big farmer in the county where I taught at, and he had a bunch of corn, and they would grow corn. They would harvest it, and then they would actually instead of sending it to the grain elevator, the grain bins be stored, they would bag it, or they would sell it in bulk to the wildlife plantations in the county. And so we did his on entrepreneur proficiency, and we did Dustin's on a placement. We both won those categories at state level. And if we'd had a little bit better guidance on Matt's going to the national, he could have probably been on stage as a national finalist, but Dustin was a national finalist. So I just always remember that. So, be creative, be thinking about your kids, be visiting them, be doing their SAE programs, and don't ever neglect that part. And I always say this, I know we had, Ms. Kelsey, I know that you're a young farmer teacher, but one of the things I always try to tell young farmer teachers, and with working tandem with your high school ag teachers when it comes to this time of the year, because one of these days, these kids will be in your program. And you want to have these kids in your program, because especially if they've got that ag farming background or just agribusiness background in general. So, help your in-classroom teachers when it comes to that time of the year, because then you can establish that relationship with that kid or that student, and then they'll be a Georgia Young Farmer member one day whenever they graduate, and you can just already have that relationship established. So that's just kind of what I wanted to add in there on the piggyback on the SAE thing, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions, and feel free to reach out. So, okay, turning the corner now to registering for CDEs. Okay, I know that we've got Region Rally next week, but in about 2 weeks from now, we start our first round of CDEs. Okay, and one of the things that you will need to do is need to go ahead and start getting kids or entered in. Miss Hannah Elrick, I know, sent an email out this week, I think it was this morning, on how to start registering your students on the roster. Well, once the rosters are not due until, I think it's November now, but we do go back and we check these rosters, okay? And to make sure that they're eligible for FFA membership after the conclusion of these CDEs. So please go ahead and start entering your kids, especially if you already know who's going to be doing the ENR and the tractor driving events that are coming up, and the ones also in October. So to do that, I'm going to share my screen, and I hope I don't mess this up. So first of all, let me make sure, okay, I get to that screen. Okay, let me go back to you. Expand. All right. Let's see. I think that's the one I want to share. Okay, so this is your dashboard. Okay, when you log into the Ag Ed website. Okay, to register for event registration, you click right here. Okay. And then you'll see all the upcoming events. Okay, right now you got Area 5. I'm using an account over in the Area 5. But you also on your side, you'll see Area 6 E&R, and then you've got Discovery Conference and then also you'll see Area 6 tractor driving, Area 6 land judging, and Area 6 meets. There's already posted, okay? The open dates. But the one that you need to call and you need to pay attention to is the closing dates, okay? And also look at the times, okay? A lot of people see 12 o'clock, they think midnight. Well, there's also 12 o'clock during the day too. That's lunchtime, okay? So look at the PMs and the AMs there, okay? That's when they close, okay? So if you want to register, once you get your kids entered, if you want to register for, let's say, for tractor driving, okay, I go over to this little edit button. I click edit. Let me move y'all out of the way a little bit right there, okay? And then once you get ready to register, you hit that green, well, see, here's a server. They don't have nobody entered in. They have no kids entered into the database yet. But when you do, you click registered, it'll, no, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. I'm sorry, just forget everything, that last line. When you're ready to register, you pull this drop down menu, you see every kid in your FFA chapter on that list there. And then when you're ready to register, then you just click on their name and it pops it up over here on the registered side over here. And then you click register and that will send them to our database and we can see who all is registered for the event, okay? Also, if you need to make changes before the close date, there'll be a big X right here. You see my cursor, big X over here by the side, it'll be a big red X. You can click on that and they will, it'll take them out and then you can come back over here, pull the drop down menu and click on the name and then get the student in there that you want to register, okay? All right, and so that's how you do it, all right? So when we go back, and it should see them over here on your side that they're registered. And then when let's just say that the event closes, and you had a substitute on the name of that you need to substitute a kid for that particular event because he didn't show up, he'd been sick, and you need to change. Well, you can do that on site at the registration tables. Where you sign in at, you can scratch that student that you had registered and you can write the student who's competing that day of. But please make sure before you do that you do have them on the roster, okay? And so that's pretty much how we run the registration process, okay? I know there's some other questions that y'all may have on that. If you do have questions, feel free to ask them at this point, but that's how you register kids for the events. And anybody have any other questions?
Mr. Stone, I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Collins, what you got?
Okay, what if I don't never register and I just show up?
If you don't register and you just show up, okay, well, I know for my events, since tractor driving and you're driving events, okay, but my welding, ag mechanics, and really I'll speak for everybody else too, even your forestry and some of the horticulture, we already had to make plans to accommodate the materials and the equipment to be used in those particular days. And if you just showed up and you didn't register, that really puts us in a bind and kind of can mess our rotations up. So what I would tell my teachers is if they were to show up and without registering or notifying me ahead of time, that they'll have to wait to the end of the CDE to compete, to make sure that we have enough materials. But the question that he's asking here, y'all, is this: don't do that. Read the emails that we send out. and send out ahead of time and make sure that you do get your kids registered. Okay. We're not saying that we won't let you compete, but realize that it may, you know, like I said, these events have a lot of materials involved with them, and we have to account for it. And we have to have planning ahead of time to get that material together. So just be prepared that you may have to wait a while, or may not be able to do them at all. So, yes, sir, Mr. Collins.
Mr. What if I aggravate you several times about getting ready for a contest and I register, and then all of a sudden I don't show up at all?
Well, that's a good point there too, Mr. Collins. Well, whenever if you don't show up at all, it would be really nice, y'all, to call us and to let us know that you're not going to be able to make it. That way, in case we do have somebody that does show up that didn't register, we would allow them to fill in your spot. But it's always just common courtesy to let us know that you're not going to be there, because like I said, it really, you know, affects our planning, and it affects the time that it takes to do these events. So please let us know the moment that you know that you're not coming, that you're not going to be there, and the sooner the better. So like I said, just take this to heart, to concern, and just don't just say, oh, well, I'll just we ain't gonna go. And I know your plate gets busy. I know things are happening, but please remember that you know, we've planned. If you've come and you've registered, we plan for you to be there, and to let us know would just be a real common courtesy. And don't think we're gonna have any hard feelings against you. We're not gonna like you. That's not what we're saying. We just would like to know ahead of time that you're not going to be there. So please remember these little pointers. These are good questions that Mr. Collins is asking. Any other questions, y'all?
Mr. Stone, if I forget to register, will you open it back up after that closing date so that I can register?
We probably not. It just all depends. Like I said, if we've already closed, it's very difficult to open it back up for you to register. But if you let us know that you're going to come, but like I said, that way we can plan for you to have the materials and things there, as well as, you know, even if it's not like material, let's go back to our driving events. If we know that you're going to be there, then that way we'll be looking out for you, and then you can sign in when you get to the registration table, and then we can check the roster. But you know, we really would like for you to pay attention to these registration dates, and if you're going to come, always let us know. Keep us in the loop.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If I train a team and register a team, can the other advisor from my school take my team to an event?
Yes, ma'am. Certainly, by all means. That is totally fine. That is no problem there. Good question, Miss Kara, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I may have missed this, but what about registering a team? Like if I'm out sick and I can't get to my computer to register for the team, can another teacher register my team for me and me get POW credit?
Yes, ma'am. You sure can.
But what needs to happen?
Let me answer that question, if you don't mind, Mr. Stone.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
So as we do these CDEs and LDEs, we go, when we're given credit for them, we primarily go by the teacher that registers that. Okay. So if for some reason you're out sick and one of your co-teachers registers your students, and just let that teacher know that's responsible for that area teacher know that's responsible for that particular event. Let them know, because I keep a record of what teachers have participated in what events, so that when we do evaluation at the end, I've got a record of it that we just look up on an Excel sheet, so we know who that is. Yes, one of your fellow teachers can register for you, but just let us know that you're supposed to get credit for that. And then as far as, if I miss registration, we'll open it back up. I think Mr. Stone said we're not going to open it back up, but if you'll let us know you're coming, and we got the materials there. Now, what we don't want you to do is, these registration deadlines are not the day of the contest or the day before the contest. They are usually a couple weeks out at least, so that we can get materials ready. So if you just miss a deadline, email the staff person that is responsible for that and let them know. If you have a change the day of the contest, you got a 4-man team or even an individual that you had it registered, but when you get there, a team member is different or that individual is different. That's not a big deal. We can change it the day of. Just make sure that they are on your roster, because we will double check that afterwards.
That brings another little point I want to finish up here today, y'all, on this before I yield the floor back over. One of the things I think we over the years have failed to do, but there is a form here on this website. It is the actual event for the event guidelines for all CDEs. It talks about, how many teams, let's say if you got a 4-man team and 2 of them backed out because of and this is like the state guidelines. If you go here to the FFA, scroll down to career leadership development events, you see this bulletin right here, general award guidelines. Okay, take some time. This is y'all's homework assignment I'm going to leave y'all with here. If you would go through this document and read it, okay, it talks about, everything. This is pretty much, the guidelines on who can compete, who can't compete. If you won the year before and didn't win, if you won it again this year, were you eligible, and that kind of thing. Also, like any team that qualifies, so at point number 10, any team that qualifies to compete in the state CDE by winning a competition on the area should be represented in the state by at least 50% of the team members who qualified. Okay, any team who cannot meet this guideline will allow the next highest ranking team to advance the state competition. Okay, that's some big points there, y'all, that you need to be aware of, because if I used the example like I did Monday. I remember I had one year I had a team that was going to state wildlife management, and 2 of the 4 got suspended because they were in the automotive teacher shop after school hours, and he left and just didn't tell them to leave, and they were horse playing around in the lab. So they suspended the 2 kids for being in somewhere they wasn't supposed to be, and it was a whole big stink. So that's take me as an example. I had to go to the state contest, and I told them I had to replace 2, and they said, well, and so they said, well, we'll see how the things roll out. But like I said, that could have got me in a bind there. Okay, because it says at least 50% of the team members who qualified. A team who can't meet this guideline will allow the next highest ranking, and so I could have really been in big time jeopardy there on that. So, and so they said, well, you didn't, 2 of them wasn't able to compete, so you've replaced 2. So, but if I'd had 3, I would have been out. So, take some time to read this document. It also talks about what, some events like your livestock and I think forestry now that Mr. Collins might can jump in here on and tell you that some of that is, if you can't do 4-H and you can't do FFA at the same year, and you got to do one or the other type of deal. So take some time to read this document here. It's only, it also tells you, like right here, is official dress required or is it not? Okay, that's another big question a lot of people have. So it talks about disqualifications and things like that. So take some time to review this document, and it can answer a lot of questions, and it's just kind of like the basic rules for participating in all these events. So. And I just wanted to share that with y'all today because I think we've kind of overlooked that over the years, and you just don't want to get yourself in trouble and make yourself look bad. So I yield the floor. Thank you for what you're doing and have done and continue to do in your programs. So I yield the floor back to you, Mr. Beecham.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Just a couple of other things. Any questions so far? All right, just a couple of things. Dr. Argene Claxton, some of you may have already had a visit from him. If not, he's lining those up. He was with us on Monday. Wasn't able to be with us today, but I got him to give me his notes of the things that he talked about Monday. So I'll just go through those. Just real quick, because I want to give you a break before we start our 4 o'clock meeting. Teaching for the first time, sometimes it's hard to see the results that are coming, and he likens it to like construction. You start pouring a foundation and then putting up walls, and you're like, when's that going to kind of come together? So it takes some time, but it will come together. And then one day, all of a sudden, you're a rock star teacher, and you're moving along, and things are doing great. So hang on to that. You're doing a great job already. So continue to do what you're doing. Some of you it may feel like you're in the middle of a whirlwind and burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. But as you work your plan, it will get better. I promise you that. He says to make sure you take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time. Don't look at the whole picture at once. You don't look at the whole program of work at once. Set some short-term goals, because you look at it all at once, it can overwhelm you, and so you don't want to do that. He says that he had a sign in his classroom when he was teaching that said, "Win every day." So whatever that looks like to you, make sure you win every day. Not necessarily an argument with your students, but make sure that you're doing the very best that you can, and that the goals that you set for that day work that way. There's Ag Teacher Share things on social media and on FFA websites that you can look at to get ideas of what's going on, what other people are doing. You can put questions in, and perhaps a lot of the questions that you have are there already. Make a notebook of your CDEs and LDEs as you go through them. What worked? What didn't work? How did you practice? Ask the students what the best kind of practice was. And so from those things, you can build upon those every year, and you will absolutely get better as time goes along. Make sure you look at the calendar. One thing we weren't able to do for you today is give you your South Region calendar, but we will have these at Region Rally. So they'll go home with you at Region Rally. They are online. Ms. Swing will tell you that the calendar and those things are online. You can look at that already, but look at that and plan your approach. How you're going to work it. What's the next thing coming? Make sure you give yourself plenty of time to do that, to know about the registration dates like we talked about. One thing that sometimes first year teachers forget about is how are you going to get to these events? Do you need a school bus? Does the county provide you a driver? Are you going to be riding with the high school? Can you take them in a personal vehicle? Does the ag department have a truck that you can use? So those are the questions that you need to ask. A lot of counties have, if you're going to use a bus, you have to request it so many days out. So you need to know those things as well. He says that all of you have been assigned a mentor, whether you signed up or not. And so there'd be additional resources for that. But just keep doing what you're doing and make sure that you reach out to us as you need and have questions. All right. Any of my staff have anything to add? All right. Any questions from any of you teachers? All right. Well, thank you for being here today. We'll take a break. The next meeting starts at 4 o'clock. It's the same link as this one. So you can log off and go get you a drink or go to the restroom or just get up from the computer for a few minutes anyway. And I'll see you guys back at 4 o'clock. Mr. Stone, if you'll go on your computer and stop sharing your screen, please, sir.
Mr. Beecham,
Yes.
if you don't mind me speaking, I was a little late to the presentation.
Yep.
And I missed a few minutes of it due to some power outages. Is
Yeah.
there any way that this was recorded so I could go back and watch what I missed?
Yes, sir. We have it recorded, and when we're done this afternoon, I'll send it to you, sir.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
No problem. No problem.
Mr. Wayne, thank you for that list of youngins that you sent us. I appreciate that.